Okay, this is the partner test that you guys took yesterday. I'm gonna run through it. Tomorrow's your individual test. We have question number 1. Okay, you were asked to find the mean, median, mode. You don't need to organize them if you're finding the mean, but the median and the mode you do. So, for the first question, the mean, if you organize these numbers from least to greatest, this is what you get: 3, 4, 4, 5, 5, 6, 10, 22. There's eight students' hours that they watch TV. These are the number of hours. The average, and it says here round to the nearest hundredth, but on your test tomorrow I'm going to have you round. It's easier to round to the nearest tenth. So tomorrow I'm going to have you round to the nearest tenth. You add these up and divide by 8. You get 7.4. The median is the middle number. Now, if there's an even number of middle numbers, you take the 2 middle ones and add them up and divide by 2. Well, 5 and 5 is 10, 10 divided by 2 is 5. The mode. This was bimodal because there were 2 modes, 4 and 5. And the range is the difference from the highest to the lowest. 22 minus 3 is 19. Okay? The range is simply the difference between the highest and the lowest. Now, on your chart, I'm going to have you fill this out again. Now, what I am allowing you to do is round your x bar, which is your mean. You can round that to the nearest whole number just to make it so you don't have to work with decimals. I'm fine with that. So, is everyone okay with this? Sorry. Is everyone okay with this? Okay, so what you're going to do in your first column is all the data. And it does not have to be in order. Then I took my average, which is 7 point. Everyone can round, right?
Yep.
So I rounded this to 7. You take the data, you subtract the mean, and then you square that number. The sum of all of these divided by the number of terms you have, which is n, 8. The sum divided by 8 is called the variance. On your test tomorrow, I want to know what the variance is. The variance is not the sum. It's the sum of these divided by the number of values. You have 8. So sigma squared which is your variance, is 34.63. And then if you take the square root of sigma, that's going to be your standard deviation. And again, I want you to round to the nearest 10th, just so it's easier, 5.9. So, one standard deviation is about 5.9.
Right, so you divide it by 8 and then you square root it and then divide it by 8.
You add these up,
Yeah.
add these differences squared, divide that by 8, that's your variance. That's sigma squared. Your variance is 34.63, and then you take the square root of that to find plain old sigma. Take the square root, you're going to take the square root of 34.63. This is sigma squared. Sigma is 5.9. That's the standard deviation. This is the standard deviation. And the variance is 34.63. You figure the variance first before the standard deviation. Good? Janor?
Yeah.
You okay? Okay, next one. This is a frequency table. So, 3 people had 0 absences. 5 people had 1 absence. 8 had 2. 6 had 3, and 2 had 4. So what is the average if you added these up and divided by, there's 24? you get about 1.95, which is about 2. That's your mean. What if I asked you what the mode is? What is the most often? What's the most frequent?
182.
2. Next. The data is number of minutes for men in the 60 to 64-year-old range group for a 5-kilometer run. And note that these numbers are already in order. So there should be no error as far as putting them in order or messing that up. So if I wanted to know the minimum is the smallest number in your data set, which is 20. Your maximum is 50, and the difference between these two is called your range. So 50 minus 20 is 30, that's your range. The median, which is the middle number, is called your Q2, that's 31. Then the median of the lower half, now we're not going to use 31 now because we've already used it here. You're not going to use it in the upper half and lower half, no. It's used, it's thrown out. Now if there were an even number here and you had to average these two, like go in the middle, then you would use 31 as part of your data for the lower half. But since we use 31, cross it out. Cross it out. So the middle number in the lower half is between here, 25 and 26. So you add them up and divide by 2. So 25.5 is Q1. And the median of the upper half is 37.
How did you get those again?
Well, you use 31. This is your Q2.
Yeah.
So then what do you have left? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So your 5th and 6th number, you're going to average them up. These two right here, 5th and 6th, average because it's an even number.
Yeah.
So these two, add them up and divide by 2. Okay.
What would you do if the number was odd?
What would you do if the number was odd?
Yeah.
Then
Will it already be a middle number?
It was odd.
Talking about the amount.
It was. Oh, you mean after you use this one,
Yeah.
then it's the middle number.
Okay.
It would be the middle number then.
Okay.
This one happened to be even, so you add them up and divide by
you
2.
have to average it.
Yes. Now, what's the interquartile range? It's the difference between Q3 and Q1. The difference of these two should be 11.5. Now, a lot of you guys had 26 for Q1. If you had 26 here, then your IQR was 26. I'm sorry, 11. 11. I would write WBOK, wrong but okay. If you subtracted your two numbers correctly, I gave you that point. So check this out, make sure you understand how to find the IQR. Interquartile range is the difference of the Q3 and the Q1. What is a box plot? Box and whisker, same thing. First, you are going to make a number line. And you're going to equally distribute your numbers on your number line. Without worrying about, you just want to make sure that you can fit your lowest and your highest number on this number line. Do not, and I did see a group do this, which is wrong. If you do your box and whisker like this, 20, 25.5, 31, 37, and 50. And then I saw this happening. What's wrong with this? It looks like these are each 25%. 25%. You evenly spaced your 25%. That is incorrect. You want to create your number line first and then put your data in. The other thing that I saw, if 35 to 38 is here, what number is in the middle here? What number would this be? 36, 37, so 36, 37. So for 37, a lot of you guys had it real close to the 38. It looked more like, wasn't accurate. So you want to make sure that when you plot your numbers, this is 20. I mean, I saw some people, they went like this. So let's say this was 20, they went like there. That, and that they didn't even do a circle. If 20 is your lowest number, that's what you should have. If 37, 37 would be somewhere in between here. That would be my 37. My 37 would not be over here, and that's what I saw. So I want you to be close to the number that you're graphing. I gave 5 points for that. So this is your box and whisker plot. The next one, this was in our homework from Thursday, and by the way, some people were like, when did we do this? Does this look familiar? I gave you guys this last Thursday. This is where we talked about what one standard deviation is. So, your data here, if you had a mean of 40, so in other words, if we had some data and the average, the mean was 40, and one standard deviation is 6 units. If you go 6 this way, forward, this would be 46, and if you go 6 backwards, this is going to be 44. So this is one standard, here's your mean. Your mean is right there in the middle. This is going to be one standard deviation below the mean, and this from here to here is one standard deviation above. So this is within one standard deviation right there. So it's between 34 and 46. What if I asked you 2 standard deviations? You're going to add 6 more. So this would be 52. And subtract 6, this would be 28. So if I asked you to do 2 standard deviations, it'd be between 28 and 52. This is 2 standard deviations below the mean, and this is 2 standard deviations above the mean. So all you do is you add and subtract your standard deviation from the mean. That's one standard deviation. Questions, anyone? Okay, number 9, and on your test tomorrow, I'm giving you the chart. And I didn't give you as many. The reason why I gave you a lot of numbers here is because I felt like as a group, if you had like 4 or 5 people in your group, you should have been able to master this pretty accurately with 5 people working on a problem. So, I wanted to see if you could do it without the chart, but I will give you the chart tomorrow. So what you do to find out the variance and the standard deviation, you list your numbers, okay? You want to find the mean. The mean is your x bar, your average. You add these up and divide by, I think there was 15?
Yeah.
Okay. So, the difference of each of these squared are these numbers right here, and then when you add them together and you divide by the number of terms you have, 15, that's called your variance. 77.3 is the variance, sigma squared. Take the square root of that, and that's your standard deviation. So one standard deviation is about 8.8 units. So how do you make a line plot with this? Well, like I said, you draw your number line, and the lowest number we had was 65, and the highest is 97, so I went up to 100. So your line plot has these x's. Is everyone okay with the line, how to create a line plot? Here's your line plot, 65, 7, I went by 5s, and then I just put my x's. Each of these x's represents the data in this set right here. So all I did was plot each of these numbers with an x. Then, how do you make this standard deviation chart? Well, right in the middle is your mean. Our mean fell into 81.1 because of that, 81.1. So roughly around 81, I did a broken line and I wrote mean. You can call it x bar, but it's 81.1. Then one standard deviation is about 8.8. Now I rounded to 9, but if you did 8.8, that's good too. So if you round to 9, that's good, I don't care, or if you leave it as 8.8, you're gonna add and subtract that number from the average, the X bar. And this, so that's one standard deviation. This indicates one standard deviation above the mean. This is one standard deviation. All these data, all these boxes, this is within one standard, it's a spread. How far that your data is from the average. This is your average right here. So this gives you like the spread. That's one standard deviation, and then here's the second standard deviation. Now, if you're not sure how to do this, where we did this was Thursday, this is what it looks like. These are your boxes, here's your average, and then 3.5, if that's your standard deviation, you add 3.5, and you just plot those numbers, just like with a broken line. Does everyone see that? So this is one standard deviation above, this is two standard deviations above. And notice that all the data falls within two standard deviations. And that was the answer to the last question.
Can I see?
Within how many standard deviations from the mean do all the data values fall? Within two. Two this way, two that way.
Can I see C and D?
C and D. Oh yeah, we forgot to do percentile. Percentile, what you do, if you're finding the 30th percentile, you take the percent, you turn it into a decimal, and you multiply by the number of terms you have. You have 15 in here. So between the 4th and the 5th term, that data is going to be that percentile, which is 77. This is it. It's between here and here, between the 4th and 5th, which is 77. I made them to turn out to be whole numbers on your test, so it wouldn't be in between.
When you're finding the percentile, they have to be in your, like.
Yes, they have to be in numeric order. Yes. Did everyone hear Nick's question? You have to organize these in order to figure out the percentile. So you're going to count, like look at and I made the numbers turn out nice, no decimals. So the 80th percentile, you take 80% of 15, which is 12. The 12th one in, from the left, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 88 is in the 80th percentile. Questions? That's your test.
Was B 15?
B is on 9.
Yeah.
B is 77.3. That's your variance. Your variance, let me show you here. There's the variance. The variance is the sum of those numbers squared, the differences squared, divided by the number of terms you have. That's your variance.
I thought the variance was the number of terms you had.
No, the variance is, you have to take your data,
Yeah.
you subtract your X bar, your average, you square that number, you add them together and divide by 15, because there's 15 terms, that's your variance. Take the square root of that, that's your standard deviation. That's the spread above and below the average. Okay, does anyone have any questions? Okay, that's your test.